这样啊，就说两句啊。
Just a few things. First of all,
比较认真的听啊。
pay attention in class.
有些觉得是今天累。
Some may feel that you're quite tired and probably would doze off. I would encourage you to be diligent.
怎么不去上课？ 好累啊，好痛啊。
I heard a male practitioner was questioning another one, saying that, why are you not going to class? And then the other person whom stayed in Larunga for a long period of time, and he said that, no, I'm too tired.
前两天刚结束吧，就前海那边有一些上司。
In fact, the loan that we're receiving is quite short. It's nothing compared to the long oral transmissions. There was a Lama recently who had given the oral transmission for 20 days, all the way from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. Sometimes I think that it is really because we grasp onto our physical body, probably grasping onto this physical sensation too much, especially when it comes to the virtuous Dharma. Tomorrow and day after, we will have the class still at 8, but we will not have the chanting at the beginning. Just a very short chanting is sufficient. And the confession and protector chant. So we'll start maybe around 7:50 p.m. and started chanting and then class. So that's for tomorrow. Our after-class presentation will be held over here as usual. The rest of you, if you don't really want to if you don't really want to, then or if you want to come here, or it's completely up to you. We won't have too much of a restriction. And then for male practitioners, we don't necessarily have anything during the day. We'll look at the time and arrange accordingly. So there is nothing specific tomorrow. I will give you the announcements. The particular teaching that we received today will be shared with the rest of you later. And then recently I heard some rumors about the setting of a foundation for raising money for students and building schools and so on. Recently, I'm too tired and I'm ready to transfer the school to the government. I'm too tired. I'm not going to run the foundation or school anymore. Recently, I heard many people were talking about this. In fact, I don't have anything like that at all. If there are people who's running charities and foundations and so on, that is completely fine. It has nothing to do with me. If you're running for charity, I hope that you don't run it under my name or use my name. I think today my class would be rather quite extensive, so be ready.
The
answer past profound and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in billions of aeons. I now see it here, receive it and uphold it. I vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning, to liberate all beings, less generally supreme bodhicitta.
Chirtir yivjin norin toba mekyan chikchir de shoyir neba namji no samgun susur zukshir tar devjin samji yivjin tenir samba tatir no natsuk chun tujir ba ten telar namar tok. Chirtir nor rinchin togmit ndopi nor bapa me per jamba tagla raftir tar devjin taba mbadme chirtir guba no janji tondo chipa chirtir tagda vju. Ganshir Gyamsu Sagu Neba Telando Tendo Pe Chirtir Nuru Zombon Rundar Ravni Daka Devjin Roa Shindar Karngan Nyumon Zin Yidndar Dekshigum Tongwar Nikka Shibrasha Chirtir Javnin Kina Ja Zanjir Namrig Lepshung War Namtuk Mechang Zumepla Shidang Nana Magne Tara Devjin Devjin Shigbi Son Zanjir Namrig Lepshung War Number Togmet Zumit Jang Shidang Nana Nema Yin Jongzit Mechang Nangwa Meda Mugba Mechang Teme La Muk Lamle Ramde Bag Zigme Tanda Mepa Yim Kala Chirtrim Tong Dang Ama Tonga Yang Tirtir Man Devjin Tamchis Sangye Lam Tonga Tena Tirta Man Chirtir Sali Kipa Kan Togme Salab Tene Na Perdang Tendang Yang Jirpa Devjin Zoba Sangye Nang Togmet Mela Rapten Drog Giver Zavar Nam Mali Barnam Pervarin Jir Bartsur Mepr Shava Da Shepam Tonga Metive Dirshi Tetsum Japi Shir Huirnam Gun of Tamba Yana Ganda Huir Gun Detagner Geber Rapt of Tangerpam Dorde Yina Maniti Dey Gomba Tambanya Tuba Leshon Shibai Snavar Jachin Deep Gambo Lorden Nir the Santi Kip Shoir Gunlan Jibran Gir 我刚才就讲到我们这个听法的时候呢
As I mentioned earlier, I hope that you don't generate a sense of
以前也没有听过
aversion whenever you're listening to the class. I know that many of you are probably sitting here for the whole day. You are experiencing some pain, back pain, and various kinds of aches throughout your body. But you definitely have to pay attention. If you feel that, well, why am I still sitting here? What's the point of listening to the Dharma and so on? This is not an appropriate attitude. If you were to compare your exertion and tiredness, it is still not to par to how I am feeling currently. In the past, I usually would feel that I am pretty good at remembering lots of the teachings. In fact, the teachings that was taught today and given today were the ones that's given by Phuntsok Rinpoche, and then I recorded that in my memoir. If you want to read into it, Phuntsok Rinpoche back in 1990, Phuntsok Rinpoche's eyesight was slowly decreasing, and he asked me to read it, and then I had to read through the whole thing. Especially some of the mantras are very difficult to read. And today, to prepare for the activity today, I had to listen to the recordings because I am quite tired. I should be quite tired. So compared to me, the so-called tiredness is nothing. The more Dharma you receive, in fact, should fulfill your life. Compared to me, you don't have as much of the other chores that you have to take care of. So you should still be quite energetic to receive this teaching right now. Now let's look at this Uttaratantra Shastra. The spontaneous activity of the Buddha is taught through the 9 examples. we will finish the rest of the examples. Tomorrow we will have the class on entering the way of the great vehicle. Today we will use the example of the Muni of the wish-fulfilling jewel, and then we are going to talk about how it is similar as an example to describe the Buddha in terms of how it could fulfill the wishes spontaneously. On one hand, the wish-fulfilling jewel could fulfill the wishes of all without any intention, without any differentiation. The wish-fulfilling jewel, as we know, it could bestow all kinds of nourishments, medicine, and a shelter, and so on to the sentient beings who have such requests. But of course, you have to request and pray and supplicate first. However, as a wish-fulfilling jewel, it could only fulfill the sentient beings whom supplicated when they are close to the wish-fulfilling jewel in terms of distance. When we think about this wish-fulfilling jewel, many of us who had never even heard of the name of the wish-fulfilling jewel ever. But we should acknowledge that not all things would stay exactly the same throughout the time. They will change. There are things that would disappear. There are new things that would appear as well, such as, for example, our laptops and the other kinds of aspects in our world. From a laptop, we will be able to access to all kinds of knowledge. It could be literature, could be sports, and whatever information you look for. So in similar way, whatever you seek for, you will be able to gain that information from your computer. Since we don't really understand what a wish-fulfilling jewel is, because it doesn't really work in our current understanding, but when it comes to the computer, to people who had never even thought of the existence of computer maybe a few decades ago, such as when I was young, I would have never even fathomed the existence of a computer. And then I remember that back then, even wanting to try to get certain songs and so on, it would be impossible. Don't even mention about internet. Don't even mention about the ability to fathom the capacity of internet, of computers, and so on. We can rely on certain gadgets that we have nowadays and then gain whatever we desire. So it's in similar way we can fathom that of a wish-fulfilling gem. But when we look at the Buddha, whomsoever would supplicate to the Buddha, and up on the different capacities of them. For example, some of them would be more prone to the Theravada or the Shravaka capacity, and some bodhisattvas and so on. They would be bestowed with the various benefits from supplicating to the Buddha. Not sure if I've quoted from this particular teaching. There's a particular sutra, it's called Adornment with the Light of Primordial Wisdom Entering the Domain of the Buddha, where it says that the Buddha indeed did not differentiate differentiate the different capacities of the disciples. For example, this particular disciple has faith and the other one doesn't. Therefore, I only want to give teachings to the one who has faith. The Buddha does not give teachings like such at all. The Buddha bestows the teaching and blessings without any differentiation. After studying Uttaratantra Shastra, we should generate the understanding of how the Buddha would bestow blessings to the sentient beings. Without a good foundation of Uttaratantra Shastra, whenever people would ask you how the Buddha bestowed blessings and how could the Buddha bestow blessings after he passed into parinirvana, it would be difficult for us to answer that kind of questions if we had never studied Uttaratantra Shastra. People nowadays, there are scholars whom would perceive the Buddha as someone who has some ordinary being who has a certain higher level of wisdom. But if you were to perceive him simply in such a way, then you won't be able to explain all of these. Just as the Muni, the wish-fulfilling gem, does not have any dualistic thoughts in terms of bestowing granting the various wishes. When it comes to Shakyamuni Buddha, he does not differentiate the sentient beings, though the teachings given to the sentient beings would be fitting to their different capacities, and the benefit would also be fitting to their own merits and capacities as well. However different the capacities and the blessings would be different. In fact, whomsoever can supplicate and will be able to gain the fitting merits or the fitting blessings. According to the Avatamsaka Sutra, it says that just like the wish-fulfilling jewel that could fulfill all the wishes of the sentient beings, similarly, the most supreme one, that is Shakyamuni Buddha, our root teacher, he could also fulfill all kinds of pure wishes of the sentient beings, just like how the wish-fulfilling jewels could do. As long as we supplicate to the Buddha would definitely bestow blessings without differentiation, and you would definitely be able to receive the great teachings from the Buddha. In Madhyamikavatara, maybe because I didn't have dinner, I can't remember that verse, but it says that this kaya of nirvana does not have any differentiations, does not have any dualistic mind, just like the tree of wish-fulfilling jewels. As long as the sentient beings pervades all over the world, the one who is completely parted from the dualist, who's completely devoid of the extremes and elaborations, would be able to see them and would be able to benefit them. The sages and scholars, for example, Confucius, Mencius, and Lao Tzu, or Aristotle, all those philosophers and so on, after their passing, maybe their teachings and philosophies are still available in this world, but would they be able to manifest, and would they be able to bestow blessings to their followers? In fact, they won't be able to do that, because but Shakyamuni Buddha would be able to bestow the various blessings to the sentient beings. The blessings from bodhisattvas, protectors, and Buddhas would be able to bestow such blessings. The next verse now talks about how the Muni is very difficult to obtain, because the Muni, the wish-fulfilling jewel, is hidden under the deepest ground in the ocean. And usually only the Naga king would be able to obtain it. However, the ordinary beings would not be able to get this wish-fulfilling jewel at all. It is quite rare. Similarly, the wish-fulfilling jewel that is the Buddha, in fact, cannot be found by the beings with inferior capacity. The beings that's fettered in the afflictions and all the inferior conditions in samsara, it would be very difficult for them to see the two kayas of the Sukata. Beings without pure faith will not be able to see the Sukata's kayas. Avatamsaka Sutra states the Sukata does not generate any dualistic thoughts. But to benefit sentient beings. However, to the ones whom uphold vicious mind, they will not be able to perceive the body of the Tathagata. The Buddha would be able to benefit sentient beings. However, not able to benefit the beings with the vicious mind. The ones with vicious mind will not perceive the body of the Tathagata. Whatever we see, the Buddha's stupa and the texts, the sutras and shastras, in fact, whenever we have such conditions to see it, it is part of our merit. For people with vicious mind, even if they were to see all of that, they would not generate any faith at all. Just as how hungry ghosts, after being showered by the rain bestowed from the great clouds, instead of perceiving them as nectar, they would perceive the rain as heated sands. In Tibet, usually the tradition is that we would say that if you want to get ordained and renounced, then as lay practitioners we would make offering to you. As a family we would support you. There are people who would revere Shramanas like that, and there are people who would perceive the Shramanas or the monastics in a way saying that, well, you can do whatever things you want in this world. You can even get imprisoned by criminal activities, but we would not agree if you want to get ordained and become a monk. There are lay practitioners whom uphold this kind of idea as well. So we can see that it is quite difficult for the ordinary beings to accept the Dharma, to perceive the Dharma, and to see the qualities of the Dharma. There are the various teachings on the various qualities or examples given to demonstrate the various qualities of the Buddha. Now we're looking at the seventh one. Seventh one talks about the echo. Whenever you're in an empty space in the mountainous areas, if you were to shout into the valley from the top of the mountain, and then the valley would echo back the sound.
就这样。然后那个就山谷里面也是，它那个声音不会
Whatever
很清楚
sound you
但
make,
基
they
本上
will
就是可以
the valley would echo back the sound again. When I was herding,
降到这些的时候，全是用这个这种牛痛的比喻。如果我以前上过
since I was a herder when I was growing up, so all the examples I relate to and give to all of you would be something that is very similar to my personal experience as a herder. There are people whom attend the various prestigious schools such as Tsinghua University, Columbia University, and so on. They would constantly say that, I'll give you an example. When I was in Columbia University, when I was in so-and-so university, I did this and that. But maybe because of my past experience, I would only give the examples that is very close to my life experience as a herder. So it really reminded me, this echo example reminded how I used to shout into the valley and how the echo would sound to me. The other day when I went back to my hometown,
后来他们说是这是那个太阳狼，就是然后就是把这个声音我从早上到就下午一直在喊。
I heard people shouting into the valley. I heard someone was shouting into the valley, and it sounded really loud, and it lasted all the way from the morning till the evening. And I thought to myself, wouldn't he get really tired? But apparently it was from a recording. And it was a solar-powered recording. Over here, the key of understanding the example of echo is that the echo itself, in fact, doesn't want to make any sound at all. There's no such intention. There's no intention, no contrived effort. When you look for the sound, there is no sound on the outside, there's no sound of the echo on the inside. It is rather just a bouncing of the sound wave. So similarly, the speech of the Buddha, in fact, is the same. The audience hearing the sound of the Buddha, in fact, these are what appears to the audience. The sound are simply just the kind of sound that appears to the audience. However, the Buddha, just like the echo, did not have any intention of making such sound. It does not have any dualistic intentions of doing so. It is not that the Buddha would make the sound through the throat and so on. The sound of the Buddha is unconditioned. The sound does not abide in the inside of the physical body of the Buddha nor the outside. According to the unfathomable sacred sutra of the Tathagata, it says that just as how the echo does not have any part that is inside nor outside, the supreme one of man, his speech is just like such. There's no inside of the sound, there's no outside of the sound. The supreme and subtle sound of the Dharma that is expounded by the Buddha, in fact, you won't be able to find any existence of it from inside nor the outside of it. The sound
所以缘起法都是这样的。有时候我们就是通过这种声音就是我们最近
We should understand the echo and the sound and further analyze it. You would be able to see that this is quite wondrous, that it doesn't have any it does not have any inside or outside nor anywhere that it abides. It is really just a dependent origination. However, people grasp onto sounds very much, onto speech very much. Whenever you hear people praise you, you would be really happy for even many days. And whenever people would slander you or criticize you, and such kind of sounds of criticize would linger in your mind for 2 or 3 days, and you won't be able to sleep for a few days. And I think that's what people do nowadays. They won't be able to fall asleep if they hear something nice nor something terrible. If they were to get excited or get bored, they don't sleep well or rest well at all. This is the example of the echo, and then the 8th example is on space. In terms of the example of space, it has the 2 parts, one on example and the other one on meaning. So, what is space? As you know, that space doesn't have anything within. At the same time, so it does not have any appearance, does not have any condition, it does not have any place to rely. If it is not existent, then how can it rely on anything? It does not appear in front of our 5 faculties. Our sense faculties would not be able to perceive it. We would use the example of space to talk about how something is not perceived. I'm very thankful to space, because this is such an example aspect of generating our understanding on our spiritual insights, as well as providing the space to provide the kind of space that we can live in and we can breathe. Sometimes whenever we see the space can appear large, can appear narrow. Whenever you go to some open area such as a large meadow, you would be able to see how the space is so vast. And the space can seem like it has already emerged into the ground. In Surta County, there was a particular man who bluffs a lot, and he said that, well, I run for a long period of time and I finally touch the space, and then whenever I knock on to the space and it makes the sound just like a drum. But that's simply bluffing. There is no way for you to reach the end of the space. It is not that of a dome. It is not of any form or shape or colors. Space is not existent. The first time when I rode when I took the airplane, many Tibetans from my hometown asked me lots of questions about my experience of riding airplane, and some of the Tibetan folks around that area asked me to wave at them from the sky above, because they usually would see the airplane flying through space. There are a few of the airplane flight lines that go across that area to go to Lhasa and so on. I have to tell more stories because it seems that you are very tired. Now, in terms of the meaning of the example, we are aware that in Jambudvipa, the Buddha took the form or took form in Jambudvipa through the 8 deeds or 12 deeds. There are the various deeds such as entering into the womb, taking birth, entering into nirvana, walking, standing, and all kinds of forms and shapes that the Buddha took. In fact, the Supreme Buddha does not take any of those activities. In terms of this example of space, it refers to the secret of the body. Over here, it did not say that how the mind of the Buddha is like the space. Usually, that's the example we would give in terms of describing the mind. We would use the example of space. However, over here, this example of space refers to the body, the form aspect of the Buddha. This is quite interesting and intriguing if you can study further into the different examples and into the specific areas that's taught in Uttaratantra Shastra. I think it would be really wonderful. I think practitioners should definitely delve into a particular text to study and to engage in various research and so on, because you would be able to find out more of the profundity of that text. It could be the Uttaratantra Shastra, it could be the Valid Cognition, it could be the Madhyamika text, and so on. You should find your professions, so to speak, in the Dharma, and then delve into the depth of it. We should be prepared for the various research projects that can be done through the practitioners over here. This kind of research is quite important. You can say that this is part of the scholastic research or the research based on your practice and your studies. Through these kinds of essays and studies, you would be able to really understand the profundity of it. That would be quite wonderful. There are many people who spend their whole life in studying only one particular text. And if you spend your life in this way, it would be very meaningful and quite wonderful. The ninth example, let's look at it. It is the example of the earth, the ground. There are two aspects as well, one on the example and the other one on the meaning. So in terms of the example aspect, it says that just like how the ground would be able to give birth to everything. However, the ground does not have any ideas or intention to do so. Rather, it just holds its quality of the ground, and then give and provides such kind of stability and nourishment to the other plants to grow. We usually would call the ground, the earth, as the Mother Earth, because it really nurtures everything in this world. According to Avatamsaka Sutra, it says that just as the ground as a whole that can nourish all kinds of sprouts and seeds. Similarly, the meritorious field of the Buddha is just like the ground. The merit field of the Buddha would nourish all kinds of sentient beings without differentiating them from friends and foe. Just like the ground, the Buddha would be able to nurture the various kinds of virtuous roots of the sentient beings, the virtuous roots of faith, of bodhicitta, and so on. Without the merit field of the Buddha, it is very difficult for the sentient beings to grow spiritually. Such kind of nourishment of the merit field of the Buddha is very much connected to his aspiration. And the reason that we can connect to the merit field of the Buddha is also because of our aspiration and accumulation of merit as well. So now we have this opportunity. We should try our best to attain understandings and a certain level of insights and realization in this lifetime. Otherwise, it is just like that we've already received a wish-fulfilling jewel, but not recognizing that it is precious, then we just throw it away frivolously, or maybe a piece of gold or whatever you cherish. Upon receiving it, not recognizing it's something valuable, we threw it into the feces, then others would definitely laugh at such a foolish action of yours. Our life could be long, could be short. It may be long, may be short, but let it be long or short, we should not give up on our right mindfulness at all. Now we've already finished the 9 examples expounded over here. This is really wonderful. These are really wonderful examples. The things that we can perceive, such as clouds and ground, and some of them cannot be perceived in our ordinary life, such as Brahma, Indras, and wish-fulfilling jewels. But the reason of presenting all of those examples is to further demonstrate the teachings within. So whenever we see a teaching, to further demonstrate its meaning, we can use examples, we can use similes, we can use inference and stories to come to full realization of that teaching. And then the next is on the purpose, why it's important to expound the examples. When it comes to understanding such examples, there are 2 aspects. One is immediate purpose, and then the intrinsic or absolute purpose. First of all, the example is that it is not obvious that one could act without exerting deliberate effort. Therefore, 9 examples are taught to cut the doubt of the disciples. people may generate a sense of doubt, thinking that, well, the things that we want to look at this world in the conventional way, that if we want to succeed in this world, we have to exert a certain effort. Without effort, you won't be able to attain any kinds of success. Especially nowadays, there are all kinds of teachings for people to succeed in this world, and through those kinds of speech and so on, it is taught that you need to diligently put in your effort. That's the nature of conventional success. You have to exert effort. All the conventional success are all based on our deliberate effort and diligence. And for that reason, majority of people would feel that, well, why would you say that the kind of attainment is effortless? But to further demonstrate effortlessness, then the examples such as the cloud and the sun and the rain and so on, all of them further demonstrates how it could be effortless, but it could be beneficial. The activities can be of great benefit to sentient beings, though effortless. According to Mahaprajna Paramita Shastra, it says that the ones with great merit, they would be able to rest at ease without any effort. So for such kind of person with merit, they would rest at ease, and without any effort, merits would naturally be accumulated and would naturally appear. And for people without merit, even if they were to exert deliberate effort with great diligence, they would not be able to attain whatever kinds of merit they seek for. So for a group of people, they would be able to gain that kind of merit naturally and effortlessly, just as that there are people nowadays who can gain wealth without having to work for them. And then there are other people without merit. They have to really save up. They would accumulate $100 every month, and slowly that wealth would be able to be accumulated. It seems that we're all human beings. However, the way that our merits are, or the accumulation of our merits, are very different. Beings at the stage of cause, the way they accumulate merit would be quite deliberate and has to be done with perseverance and great diligence. However, at this stage of fruition, then the merit would naturally appear. I think I've told you that when I traveled to Phuntsok Rinpoche, everything is so spontaneously appearing. All the merits and favorable conditions would naturally arise. The people over there, whomsoever meet Phuntsok Rinpoche, they would pay great respects to him naturally, and people would naturally attend to his teachings. Unlike people nowadays whom would not have the respect from the others, doesn't matter how much they've tried. So as ordinary beings, in fact, all of our success, all of our merit has to be accumulated and achieved through deliberate effort and lots of diligence. But compared to the Buddha, in fact, we can't compare to the Buddha because the Buddha's activities and merits are spontaneous and effortless. Then the next two, over here it also says that the place where these 9 examples were explained in very great detail in the sutra, which is through its very nature teaches their necessity and purpose. This particular teaching that is taught in the adornment with the light of primordial wisdom entering the domain of the Buddha, which is translated into the Chinese language by Dharma Raksha. This particular nine examples are included in this sutra, as well as the other sutras as well. It is taught in such a way to immediately dispel the doubts of sentient beings, and the absolute purpose, the ultimate purpose, is to lead ourselves, to guide ourselves and the sentient beings to enter into the realization and the field of the Buddha. That is the ultimate purpose of given the examples. The examples that we've studied, the commentaries of Uttaratantra Shastra and the 9 examples that we studied from other sutras and shastras, in fact, such kinds of teachings could lead the sentient beings into the field of vast wisdom, as well as the supreme activity of the Buddha. The sutras given by the Buddha, especially the kinds of teachings on the third turning of the Dharma wheel, the Shastras composed to further explain the third turning of the wheel, can further help us to understand the wisdom of the Buddha and the effortless, spontaneous activity of the Buddha. After studying all of those third turning of the wheel of the Dharma, people would generate a great sense of wisdom, and through such kinds of teachings, we will be able to enter into the unfathomable activity of the Buddha. Confusion and awakening, in fact, is within one moment, can be transformed or can be turned into this one moment. When you're confused, you're considered as an ordinary being, but once such confusions are dispelled and the supreme wisdom is attained, then right away you are already considered as a noble one. So through this teaching, in fact, you can very quickly enter into the field of the experience of the Buddha. We can be very much influenced by texts that's infused with wisdom, or get very much influenced by vicious friends whom would give you the ideas of wrong views. For people with strong mind, of course, it's easy for them to become a very good practitioner. Today, I met an ordinary being, a practitioner who is not necessarily a practitioner, and he told me that he encountered a really terrible person, even in a worldly sense. And his family member warned him to say that this person has very bad character, so you should not get along with him. You should not affiliate yourself with him. But he himself thought that, well, wouldn't that be nice to practice with such kind of person? He thought, though his family members all thinks that this particular person is really terrible, but that person told me, after getting to know the other one, he felt that he's really not that terrible, and he told his family member that the other person is not as bad as they thought. The family member thought that, well, he has quite good practice, though he's not a practitioner. But the point is, if you have a very strong mind and you have your own strong principles, then when it comes to dealing with the others, you can still work with whatever environment. So as a practitioner, similarly, we should have our principles and we should be strong ourselves. By supplicating to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and the Lamas, we would be able to receive the kinds of blessings, and we would be able to live in this world with all kinds of happiness. According to Avatamsaka Sutra, it states the same. If one were to abide in this world without any graspings, they would be able to generate great happiness and attain liberation. So we should stop here today. Jirga nanchi ranong chubayi chubum tsunen roa churur sho